Welcome in. We have tragic news that has come out of LaGuardia International Airport, and that is the captain and first officer of Air Canada Flight 8646. Both have been killed in an accident which occurred yesterday evening. That's Sunday, March 22nd. Their plane collided with an aircraft firefighting rescue vehicle that was cleared across the same runway that they were cleared to land on. On that plane were 72 passengers as well as 4 crew members. 41 of them went to the hospital, 9 of which still remain in the hospital as of Monday morning. We'll take a look at this flight, again, operating from Montreal to LaGuardia. The objective of this video is not to try and figure out what transpired. That is the job of the National Transportation Safety Board. This is just an aggregate of the information, as well as for some of those who are not familiar with aviation, I'll try and paint the picture of what's transpiring, the airport laydown of the diagram as we listen to the video, just to build your situational awareness of what transpired. And as you hear more, you can have more of an educated thought process when it goes around it. So again, not diving into how this happened, just what happened. Before we listen to the Air Canada flight audio, I want to talk about a couple things that have happened recently. The first of which being a 777 this past week operated by FedEx and Alaskan Airlines 737 that had a near miss at Newark. I'll play this video here so you can get an idea of what transpired.
Oscar 294, go around, fly runway heading, maintain 29, go around.
Going around, that's 294.
The two flights were less than 325 feet apart while arriving at Newark Tuesday night. Flight Radar 24 shows the Alaska Airlines pilot attempting to land from Portland and a FedEx plane arriving from Memphis. The Newark control tower ordered the Alaska Airlines pilot to execute a go-around. That's when a pilot aborts a landing and climbs back up.
So that Newark near miss, intersecting runways, it sounds like they intended for the 737 to land behind the FedEx 777 there. And then if we back up just a little bit further, February 4th, 2023, we have a FedEx 767 crew that honestly saved the day. But this incident occurred at Austin International Airport. 737 had been cleared onto the runway. It was dense fog. The visibility was absolutely terrible. But the 767 crew, that FedEx crew, utilizing a lot of situational awareness off their audio cues, querying the controller, not sure something didn't sound right, they initiated a go-around, which ultimately saved hundreds of lives. So not to get too much on a soapbox, but having 2 pilots at a minimum in the cockpit, I think is absolutely crucial. Those guys utilized their dozens of years of experience to make sure that hundreds of lives were saved. So this stuff definitely happens. And so let's dive into this Air Canada mishap just a little bit. All right, this is an airport diagram of LaGuardia. You have 2 runways. You have this runway here and this runway here. Now, the runway we're talking about specifically is runway 4, landing in this direction. Obviously, when the wind favors it, runway 22 is the other direction here. The intersection in question is this intersection Delta. So the Air Canada flight is coming in from this direction, landing on runway 4. And then you have the fire truck that is crossing at taxiway Delta. So my pilot's in the room. You can skip the next 30 seconds. But for those who are not familiar, there are multiple controlling agencies when we talk about air traffic control, different layers and different responsibilities. For this one specifically, we have the ground controllers, which are handling all the taxi instructions, telling the planes how to get to and from the runway. They will pass airplanes off to the tower when it is time to take off or when they're clearing the runway from landing. The tower will hand it off the ground. Also, any ground vehicles, etc., they'll be talking to ground. But when it comes time to cross a runway or get near a runway, that is typically when the ground controller hands that vehicle, that aircraft, over to the tower controller. The tower controller is responsible for aircraft taking off, landing. They own that piece of concrete there and the deconfliction that goes along with it. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and I'm sure my air traffic controllers who are watching can chime in, but 99% of the time, that is how it's gonna work. Again, there's always exceptions to it, and we don't know if that's the case here. LaGuardia is obviously a very busy airport. To get to be a controller at this place, you probably gotta be pretty experienced, and there's a lot of training that goes into it, just very high volume and high intensity that goes into this. So again, Air Canada be landing on runway 4, and then that firefighting vehicle crossing the runway at taxiway Delta. Now, I borrowed this clip from my buddy Combat Learjet over on Instagram. It gives a good breakdown. You're going to hear truck 1, which is that firefighting truck. You're going to hear tower, which is the air traffic controller. And I didn't mention it, but that tower controller and the ground controller, they're going to be standing next to each other in the physical tower that is on the airfield that you see when you're driving by or when you're flying. So let's listen to this.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and company crossing Florida Delta.
Frontier 4195, just stop there, please. Stop, truck 1, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Delta 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jazz 646. Jazz 646, I see you collide with a vehicle there, just hold position. I know you can't move. The vehicles are responding to you now.
Okay, obviously that's tough to listen to, just knowing what transpired and how that came to an end. I should have mentioned, if you didn't figure it out, JZA, that's at Jazz Aviation, we mentioned in the beginning. Air Canada, but operated by Jazz Aviation, 646, the airplane that we're talking about in this mishap here. You can actually hear the ELT go off at the impact.
Truck 1 and company crossing Florida Delta.
Which is that little
Frontier 4195, just stop there, please.
siren. I guess it's tough for me to describe.
Stop, truck 1, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Stop, truck 1, stop. Delta.
Right there, it's like a little siren going off. That is the ELT, the emergency locator transmitter, which will go off in a crash or an impact. Again, for those who are pilots, you hear that all the time from either testing or someone accidentally sets one off. Unfortunately, sometimes you hear it and it's due to a mishap. Now, a couple other thoughts with this. If we look at the time of this mishap, which is just before midnight Eastern time, looking at the weather at this time, there's rain, mist, light rain. That's what this minus RA, that's light rain. And then we have broken at 2,400, overcast at 10,000. It does get worse as the night goes on, but obviously at this time frame, the visibility is not great. 4 statute miles, but the ceiling is not really a factor, it looks like. The temperature being 8 and the dew point being 8, that's when you typically get fog. So again, this is, just a kind of a gross-ish night is what I envision without having seen a picture at the exact time this transpired. Again, that's just to kind of paint a picture of what is going on in this time frame. Again, the bottom line with that is the weather wasn't clear, VFR, or just absolutely beautiful day. That could be an impact here as well. So ultimately, time will tell. Hopefully, the 41 others that went to the hospital, they all make a fast and safe recovery. Thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who's involved with this mishap. Again, the goal here is not to try and sort out what transpired, just aggregate that information and then provide a little bit of insight when it comes to how this stuff operates on the field. So that being said, I'll see you next time.